Hey, greetings. Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining me so much. Gina, if you're out there, I love you so much, and thank you for listening each week. There's not many people that I know for sure that are listening, but I know my friend Gina is, and she's with us today. Bless her sweetheart. Last week, we finally talked about the altar of incense. Oh my gosh. We've talked about the Ark of the Covenant way back when? Back in chapter 25, 24, 23. And now we're finally got to the altar of incense. We talked about that last week. We talked about lighting the lamps. We talked about the laver we talked about last week. We talked about making the anointing oil, and we talked about the incense, creating the incense. All things that Yehovah says that if his people try to copy that, it's not going to be good for them. They're going to be cut off from his people. Cut off from his people. This is the last thing. Whoever makes any like it to smell it, he shall be cut off from his people. Cut off from his people. What does that mean? If you're keeping the commandments of God, how can you be cut off from his people? See, how do you become his people? This is really what it comes down to. Well, I want to address that today. So kind of keep this in mind. He said the same thing about being cut off from his people for anybody who's going to make that anointing oil. There's just certain things that you don't do because it gets you kicked out of Israel. The question is, how do we get into Israel? And, we're going to try to talk about that a little bit today. So let's go ahead. We're going to move on to chapter 31. So interesting. It's kind of a short chapter, but I've added some information that I think you'll find interesting. It starts, remember, all along since Yehovah went up on the mountain, or once Moses went up to the mountain, he ascended into the clouds to be with Yehovah for those 40 days and those 40 nights. Yehovah's been talking with him. And now, this is really, we're coming down to the end, because next week, Moses is going to return to the Ezra men. Not to all Israel, just to the Ezra men. But they have screwed things up royally. And we're going to see that they created a golden calf. Did you know we have a modern day golden calf? Oh, yes, we do. You probably haven't thought about it that way, but we have a modern day golden calf that we have substituted for Yehovah. We call him the Lord because we have been deceived. We have followed a false narrative. Well, we're going to get into that today a little bit too. So let's begin. It says, Yehovah spoke to Moses saying, see, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. Do you remember when we came out of Egypt that the Amalekites attacked us, and it was Hur and Aaron who helped Moses hold the rod of Elohim, Elohim's rod that, remember, was descended from all the Melchizedeks throughout creation, in a sense. The folks in the antediluvian world had the rod of Elohim, and it was passed down, and it came into the hands finally of Moses. Well, that's a whole nother story. But it was that rod that Hur and Aaron were holding over Moses' head. They were holding Moses' hands up, in a sense, holding the rod, and Moses just had to hang on to it. Who is Bezalel? Son of Uri, son of Hur. Where does Hur fit into it? At one point, I remember, here it is right here, in my treasury of scriptural knowledge. Nope, it wasn't there. Where was it? Maybe it was in Easton. Husband of Miriam, Moses' sister. Where on earth do they get that idea? Because Aaron is with her? Do they just assume that Hur must be Aaron's brother-in-law? There's nothing. But this is Easton. This is the one that I like the most as far as the dictionaries are concerned. I've got lots. Smith, Nave, International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, all kinds of encyclopedias. Hitchcock, Hawker, Fawcett. But I like Easton. But here, I guess my point is, when you listen and go to these commentaries, beware. They are not authorities on Jehovah's word. Husband of Miriam, Moses' sister. Where? There is no place. The reference that they give has nothing about Miriam in it. But let's talk about Bezalel. He is of the tribe of Moses. Look what it said right here. Of the tribe of Moses. Here is Judah. A tribe of Judah. I'm saying Moses. I don't know why I'm saying Moses. It clearly says tribe of Judah. Pardon-moi. Bezalel. Accent is on the last syllable. Oh, makes sense. He's what's important. It says the sons of Judah were Onan, and Shelah. Remember, and Onan were, Tamar was given to and Onan, and they failed. Jehovah killed them. Judah wouldn't give her to Shelah. And so it turned out that Tamar they said, played the harlot. I mean, she was getting the seed that she was deserved. It turned out to be Judah's seed, but she got Perez and Zerah, sons of Judah. Look what it says. Perez begat Hezron. Also the sons of Hezron. This is all in First Chronicles, chapter 2. Also the sons of Hezron were born to him. I'm sorry. Also the sons of Hezron who were born to him were Yerahmeel, Ram, and Calube. Well, Calube, turns out, is Caleb. Look what it says in chapter 2, verse 42. The descendants of Caleb, brother of Yerahmeel, there it is right there, Yerahmeel, is Caleb. So we know that now this is Caleb. The rest of this verse, and I haven't researched this, just my notes, which I've had for quite some time. But it says the descendants, these would be the seed of Caleb, the brother of Yerahmeel, were this guy, Mesha, his firstborn. Well, look at Chronicles 2:18. It says Caleb, the son of Hezrah. Here's Sezrah, who had Caleb. Again, we're putting this together so we know that Kalubai is Caleb. It says Caleb, the son of Hezron, had children. Yeladim. Yelad. It just says Yelad. It probably is Yeladim. I didn't look it up. It would have to be Yeladim. By Azubah, his woman, and by Yeriot. He had 2 women in his life. That cramps people's brains. If Jehovah doesn't change and his word endures forever, can a man have more than 1 woman in his life? See, these are questions that we always have to ask ourselves. Even in the falsified, created New Testament, it tells men who want to be elders or deacons, which is nowhere in Torah, that they can't be husbands of more than 1 woman. What's the reference then? That some men had more than 1 woman in their life, 1 woman in their life, didn't they? See, we miss it. We miss it. We just don't think about it because it doesn't fit into our understandings. It's cognitively dissident to us reading it, seeing it, and understanding it. So he had these 2 women. And the first one died. Look at it. It says he had 2 women, his woman, and this person. Now, these were her sons. Who's her sons? Their sons, maybe? Their sons? It says her sons. But Azubah died. When Azubah died, Caleb took Ephrat as his woman and bore her. That's where her comes from, Caleb. And so you can see we're going from Hezron, Perez, Perez bore Hezron, Judah, Perez, Hezron, Caleb, her. And her begat Uri, and Uri begat Bezalel. Oh, I think it's so interesting to see where these men come from. They come from good blood, good genes, good seed, if you will, the seed of Judah. Of course, most of them come from Jacob's sons. Well, that was a freebie. Look what it says then. I have filled him with, they wrote, the Spirit of God. Well, we know that God doesn't say God. It says Elohim. Here it is right here. Elohim. Ruach Elohim. I have filled him with Ruach Elohim. In wisdom, in understanding, in knowledge, and in work, and in all manner of workmanship. Spirit Elohim. You know, every man has a spirit. I think every living thing has a spirit. Jehovah says, I take away their spirit, they die, and return to the earth. But Jehovah's Ezra men have something more. They are Yehovah kind. Yehovah Kasid. We can see that in Psalms 50, verse 5. His kind. His son. We're going to read that verse in a little bit, so I'm not going to go to it. Look what it says in Genesis chapter 2. The earth is desolate and in confusion and in ruin, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And Spirit Elohim, there it is, Ruach Elohim. This happens to say, and Ruach Elohim was hovering over the face of the waters. Yehovah is spirit. Those that worship him in spirit and in truth. You can't see him. It's an invisible kingdom. We follow his statutes and his judgments and his ordinances. When we do, here's a freebie. Listen carefully. That is faith. Nothing else is faith. Following an invisible Elohim, following his statutes and judgments and ordinances, that alone is faith. Oh, I'm going to believe. I just done it. You're wasting your time, folks. Nobody understands what faith actually is. We've learned lies. Following an invisible Elohim, that is faith. What's the first commandment? You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. That's the first commandment. If you can't get that one right, you're not his. Because if you're going to take other Elohim, it's going to be to your own destruction. Verse 4. To design artistic works. So let me just read it as a whole. I have filled him with spirit Elohim, in wisdom, in understanding, in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to design artistic works, to work in gold, in silver and bronze, in cutting jewels for setting, in carving wood, to work in all manner of workmanship. He's the first one that Yehovah is appointing. Dare I say, the responsibility ultimately falls to Moses. That's who Moses told. Or that's who Yehovah told. But Yehovah is telling Moses, now, here's your second in command. And there's going to be people underneath him who he's going to guide in this effort because he's the one that's still filled with Spirit Elohim. He goes on, verse 6. And I have appointed, did I do my, yes, I did, okay. And I have appointed with him Aholiab. Aholiab ends with a V. Aholiab, the son of Achisamach. Achisamach of the tribe of Dan. Don't know a thing about the chronology, we're just in Chronicles, the chronology of this man's life. This comes from Dan. So there's a lot between Dan and Achisamach before Achisamach has Aholiab. What is my verse here? He put in his heart the ability to teach in him and Aholiab. So again, this is talking about Bezalel. He has put in Bezalel's heart the ability to teach. Oh, look at that. In him and Aholiab, the son of Achisamach of the tribe of Dan. Well, you need to teach because look at what the next thing says of the tribe of Dan. And I have put wisdom in the hearts of all the gifted artisans. So Yehovah has given Spirit Elohim to these two guys and wisdom into the hearts of all the people that are going to work with them, the gifted artisans. They're going to make all of the following. It says that they may make all that I have commanded thee. The tent of Moab tent of meetings, the ark of the testimony, the mercy seat that is on it, and all the furniture of the tabernacle. I wonder if they say tent or if they say mishkan for that tabernacle. I'm just curious. Inquiring minds want to know. Oh, hell, tent. Isn't that interesting? Okay. I thought maybe that might be mishkan, but it's not. It's the tent. And all the furniture for the tent. The table and its utensils of pure gold. The pure gold lampstand with its utensils. The ark of the altar of incense. The altar of burnt offering with all its utensils. And the laver and its base. The garments of the ministry. The holy garments for Aaron the priest. And the garments of his sons to minister as priests. And the anointing oil and the sweet incense for the holy place. According to all that I have commanded thee, they shall do. I think Moses is probably going, oh, thank God. I couldn't begin to know how to do all those things. Again, he's got the ultimate responsibility, doesn't he? But these men, Yehovah has prepared for this task. Now, we're going to switch gears. Look what it says. And I think this is very interesting. This is just before Yehovah comes down from the mountain. And, he's kind of reviewed what Yehovah has taught Moses in these last, close to 10 chapters. But now we're going back to this. It says, and Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak also to Israel's seed. Israel's seed. Does it say, speak now to Egypt's seed? How about America's seed? France's seed? It says Israel's seed. B'nai Israel. We're going to see that there are two names for this group of people. B'nai Israel and Ezra Haaretz. Ezra Haaretz. We'll talk about that in a second. He says, surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is an oath, a sign between me and thee. No, me and y'all, as he would say. Because now he's speaking to Israel's seed. This is what Yehovah told Moses to say to Israel's seed. Between me and y'all, throughout y'all's generations. That y'all may know that I am Yehovah who sanctifies you. This isn't the first time that he's said this. He said it before. He's going to say it again in Deuteronomy when Moses is older. Let me read it to you in, I don't even have it. I don't even have it in Exodus 20, because we went through it in Exodus 20. Let me just go through it briefly. It's easy to get to it. We want to go to Exodus 20. And here it is here. Remember the Sabbath, to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor. Remember, we had to ask ourselves, who's he talking to? There's only two kinds of people, men, in Israel at this point. Now, I guess you could say there's three kinds, in a sense. because there is well, I guess when they left Egypt as heads of the family, remember Egypt or Israel went out 600,000 strong, plus heads of families. I forget how many heads of families there were. I don't think he gave us a name, plus children. Didn't talk about the women, didn't talk about women, young or old for that matter. And it was to the Ezra men, Israel's seed, that Yehovah gave these commandments. So was it the Ger? Or was it the Ezra, what I would call Israel's seed, that he was giving these commandments to? And if we read this carefully, we'll see it wasn't. Who are they? Let's ask ourselves, who is the? 6 days thou shalt labor and do thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yehovah your Elohim. In it thou shalt do no work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy male servants, nor thy female servants, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger who is within thy gates. The last one is the one I want you to see the most. When we talk about Israel, it says there shall be one law for the Ezra of the land's Ezra, and for the stranger who dwells with you. That's the stranger, Ger. That's the word we're talking about. So obviously the Ger are not there right now. The ladies are not there. The sons and the daughters are not there. The male servants are not there. The female servants are not there. It's the Ezra men who are there. This is who Yehovah is giving the Sabbath to. Remember the Sabbath. This is the instruction, the commandments. Let me go back. Probably that one right there. Yeah. So it's a sign. But he says, observe here, this is Deuteronomy 5, also talking about the Sabbath. Observe the Sabbath day observe the day of the Sabbath, to sanctify it, as Yehovah thy Elohim has commanded thee. 6 days thou shalt labor. 6 days thou shalt labor. The seventh day is when we're going to rest. We talked about the women. Where are the women? It talked about the sons, the daughters, the male and female servants, the animals, and the Ger who dwells with them, but it didn't say anything about the women, the wives. Where are the wives? The wives are in the man. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. She is he. But he is the head. Bone of his bone. She's his right hand. As much as my right hand is my right hand. You follow me? And when she does something wrong, he does something wrong. This is why you can't keep a woman who won't follow you in your life. You got to let her go. This is why I tell women, learn to follow your man. Oh, but he's not adorable. Doesn't matter. Follow your man. Let Yehovah deal with him. It's going to keep you safe. Got to learn your duties and responsibilities. And it is a humbling activity to follow your man. Gina, that's kind of what you were saying today. It's humbling. But it's what Yehovah expects What did he tell the woman? Your desire shall be for your man, and he shall rule over you. The man rules over the woman. Yehovah rules over the man. Well, in my writings, I talk about, what if I have a man that doesn't want to obey Yehovah? Follow your man, do what he wants, and Yehovah is going to take care of your man. This is sanctifies you. He's the one that Kadash, sanctifies you, makes you holy. Let me ask you this. Does keeping the Sabbath make you holy? Or does something else make you holy? Can keeping any of the commandments of Yehovah make you holy? Doing the commandments is righteousness. We're going to talk some more about that today, too. This is the rest of this verse, so I don't need to read this. Do I have more here? No, I don't. So let me just continue with this. It says, you shall keep the Sabbath. Therefore, you shall keep the Sabbath. Therefore, for it is holy to you, to y'all. Everyone who profanes it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people. Do you see that? He shall be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person, that soul, we're talking about men, we're talking about Israel's seed, that's who he's speaking to right now. Shall be put to death. Look what it says for put to death. It says, dying, he shall die. I think that's interesting that it says dying, he shall die. Moot, he shall moot. One's used as a noun. I guess they're both kind of used as dying. It's really not a noun. That's an adjective or a verb as well, isn't it? Dying, he shall die. This is my rendering of this. It says, surely he shall be put to death. But that's not what it says. It says, moot. Va. Actually, it's got an extra letter in there. The yod. Boot. And they both use the same Strong's number. Dying, they shall die.
Michael.
Yes.
I wonder if that's physical and spiritual death, maybe.
Well, and that's the point I was just going to make. You are so on track with me, Gina. Because in a sense, the people who don't know Yehovah, the men who don't know Yehovah, the men who have not left the kingdom of their birth, the men who have not circumcised themselves and taken part in the Passover are already dead. They're walking dead. And so when it says dying, he shall die, it's kind of like, because you're not going to follow his instructions, you're dying, but now you are going to die. I think it is. I think it's spiritual and it's physical.
Yeah, because I think back earlier where maybe we hadn't got there where one man does die for picking up sticks on the Sabbath. Remember?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and when he died, what happened to his wife? they're going to go too. And maybe they killed the whole family. I don't know if they did or not. I don't remember what it actually
Yeah, I
said.
don't remember either.
But generally, where the wife goes, where the man goes, the wife goes. So it says, any work, for whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people. There it is again. You got to be Jehovah's people before you can be cut off from Jehovah's people. So the question is, how do we become Jehovah's people? But for those who will not keep the Sabbath, death is inevitable. But again, he did not tell anybody in Egypt to keep the Sabbath, did he? Or any other country. It was only Israel, his Ezra men, that he gave this commandment to. But perhaps it is Jehovah's way of saying the one who will not keep the Sabbath will experience two deaths, one temporal and one eternal. And that's exactly what Gina was just saying. Being cut off from Jehovah's people is eternal death. Not being Jehovah's people to begin with is eternal death. To dust, how does it go? From dust to dust. But those that are going to keep Jehovah's instructions, especially, here, let me read this. It says, what makes a man one of Jehovah's people? Keeping his commandments, statutes and judgments, statutes, ordinances. Who is Jehovah talking to here? He's talking to Israel's seed. Israel's seed. There's a lot of people out there who think they're going to become Jehovah's people by keeping his commandments. Yet they still have driver's licenses and they still vote for their political candidates. Do you see a problem there? Thou shalt have no other Elohim but me, is what he told Israel's seed when they met with him on the mountain. Well, I put see Numbers 9. And I think this says a lot. We're going to come back to verse 14. Here's Numbers 9. It says, then Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Israel's seed. He's talking to Israel's seed. Remember, Israel's seed is the ones who have the ger who dwell with them. Right? Two kinds of people. Israel's seed and the ger who dwell with them. Saying, if any one of you, Israel's seed, or your posterity is unclean because of a corpse, or is far away on a journey, he may still keep Jehovah's Passover. Remember, this chapter 9 is all about the second Passover. We get two chances to become Jehovah's people each year. If we're unclean, we can do it the second month. Or on a journey, we can do it the second month. Same way as the first month. Look what he says. On the 14th day of the second month, at twilight, they may keep it. They shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall leave none of it until morning, nor break one of its bones. According to all the ordinances of the Passover, they shall keep it. All the ordinances of the Passover in Exodus 12. This is where Jehovah teaches us to do this. He says, but the man, not the woman. This is an ish. But the man who is unclean and is not on a journey and ceases to keep the Passover. He kept the Passover, but now he's decided, I don't want to keep the Passover anymore. Remember, the Passover is to all generations, an everlasting covenant. But the man who is clean and is not on a journey. This is an Ezra man. He was doing it, but now he's going to cease from doing it. And ceases to keep the Passover. That same person shall be cut off from among his people. He was Israel. Now he's not going to be Israel anymore. Does it matter if he still keeps the Sabbath? Not in the least. He's not Jehovah's people anymore. Didn't keep the Passover at the appointed time. The Passover is where you become an Ezra man, and it's also where you remain an Ezra man. Because he did not bring the offering of Jehovah at its appointed time, look what it says. That man shall bear his sin. Now, sometimes what it doesn't say is what's most important. Is this saying that the man who does keep it will not bear his sin? I think so. Here, this is his sin, his kata. That man shall bear, his kata, that man shall bear. His sin, then he will bear. Okay, this is 50 we were talking about. I wanted to just go through this really quick. 50 verse 5. The mighty El. The mighty one. El. It probably says the mighty El, the mighty one. El, Yehovah, or Elohim, Yehovah, has spoken and called the earth from the rising of the sun to the going down. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty. God will shine forth. Elohim will shine forth. Our Elohim shall come and shall not keep silence. Here is Yehovah coming. He will not keep silence. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous all around him. This is Joel. There's a fire coming when Yehovah comes. Now, we got this idea about Jesus coming in the clouds. And you know what? There's likely going to be a blue, what do they call that? A blue V, you could come up with this. I'm talking about the fake things that they're doing in the sky like they did with the planes on the towers. Do you remember what that was? A blue, Sims may be trying to tell us. It's going to look real. They're going to make it look like Jesus is coming in the clouds, because this is what the deep state's alternative narrative.
Blue beam.
Blue beam. Thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate that. I wondered if that's why you had your hand up. I was hoping it was. Yeah, blue beam. They're going to use a blue beam. Same thing they did with the towers. There were no planes at the towers. But we all saw it on TV because they use what they call a blue beam. It's fake. Looks like it. Saw with my own eyes. But what does Jehovah say when he comes? It's not about Jesus coming, God forbid. It's about Yehovah returning to his people. And Elohim shall come. He shall not keep silent. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous all around him. Look at what Joel says. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like a garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Surely nothing will escape them. Here's Malachi. But who can endure the day of his coming? We're talking about Yehovah. And who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a launderer's soap. He shall sit as refiner and a purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer to Yehovah an offering of righteousness. Here's Malachi 4. For behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, and all the proud, yes, all who do wickedly, will be stubble. And the day which is coming shall burn them up, says Yehovah of hosts, that will leave them neither root or branch. It's going to completely obliterate them. Look what it says next. He shall call to the heavens from above, and to the earth, that he may rule his people. His people are not going to be tortured and destroyed on this day. Look what he's going to say. Gather together, my saints. This is what I was talking about earlier. Gather together, my kind, my kasid. Look what he says. Those who have cut covenant with me by slaughter. His kasid, his people, are those who have cut covenants with him by slaughter. How do they do that? They do it with Passover. And look what it's saying. Gather together, my saints. We're talking about a resurrection from the dead. Isaiah talks about it in Isaiah 26. What does he say? My soul. Oh, I'm going to go there. Isaiah 26. We'll come back to here. Don't lose track of where we're at. Isaiah 26. Oh, the dead shall rise. Together with my dead body, they shall rise and rejoice. Where is it? Your dead shall rise. Together with my dead body, they shall arise. Awake and sing. You who have you who dwell in the dust, your dew is like the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out its dead. We're talking about the dry bones coming back to life. Gather together, my saints, those who cut covenant with me. It's Israel's seed who has cut covenant with him, his firstborn. Remember what he told Pharaoh? Let my son, my firstborn, Israel, go, that he may serve me. We didn't get to leave until we became his firstborn at Passover, his kasid, his born in the land Ezra men. I'll show you that in just a second too. Let me go back. We were down here. Gather together, my saints. He says, let the heavens declare his righteousness, for Elohim himself is governor. Shaphat, the judge. don't think I want to go through any more of this. Oh, here. Passover is not something that we have to do. It's something that we want to do if we can want to do so that we can remain as the land's Ezra Haaretz, and not to have to bear our own sins. Remember, the man who doesn't keep it, his sins stay on him. The one who doesn't keep it, his sins don't stay on him. Oh, I think I wrote that. Sometimes what Torah does not say is important for us to understand. The man who does not bring his offering, his korban, at the appointed time will stay numbered among Jehovah's people and not bear his own sins. This is the man who does it. Forgiveness of sins has nothing to do with the golden calf of the modern days. We have a golden calf right now. Next week, we're going to see the golden calf that they raised up and said, this is the Elohim that brought us out of the land of Egypt. Don't you know? No, we call him Jesus now. Again, a Catholic false narrative given to us to turn us away from Yehovah's eternal and unchanging ways. Wait till you find out the earth is flat. Oh, that's going to blow your mind. That the sun and the moon are underneath the dome. They're not millions of miles away. Oh, there's so much that we're going to have to renew our minds to. You have no idea. Let's go back to where we left off. I think it was on 31:14. There it is right there. So we were talking about being cut off from among his people. How do you become his people? We just covered that. Let's go to here. Work shall be done for 6 days, but the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to Yehovah. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath, he shall surely be put to death. Dying, he shall die. Therefore, Israel's seed, here we are, this is Israel's seed, the Ezra man, shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant. You know, talking about 6 days, one rest. It's 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. It's a rhythm that Yehovah has put together for his people. Let me read some of these. I think they're worth taking our time for. We're talking about Olam, an everlasting covenant. Throughout their generations, a perpetual covenant, an Olam covenant. It's funny they call it a covenant, isn't it? A word usually refers to looking forward, but many times expresses the idea of looking backwards. Therefore, Israel's seed, you can see my transmission or my growth through the years. Some of these notes were written so long ago, and I wrote Children of Israel, or maybe I just copied and pasted it. Therefore, Israel's seed shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, a perpetual, there it is, Olam covenant. Exodus 12. We were just talking about Passover. Here it is again. So this day, talking about the day we slaughter our Passover lambs and goats, shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to Yehovah throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting Olam ordinance. An everlasting ordinance, an Olam ordinance. Here he says it again, forever. Olam. Abraham, this is 105 of Psalms. O seed of Abraham, his servant, you sons of Jacob, his chosen ones. His chosen ones, that's Israel. He is Jehovah our Elohim. His judgments are in the earth. It doesn't say planet, does it? It says earth. He remembers his covenant, Olam, the words which he commanded for 1,000 generations. We still feel like we need to keep the Sabbath, but they don't want to keep the Passover, and they're both Olam. Hypocrisy is what I'd call that. The works of his hands are verity and justice. All his precepts are sure. They stand fast forever and ever. Olam. For Olam. They translated for Olam as forever and ever. They stand fast forever and ever. Olam. And are done in truth and uprightness. Almost done. It is a sign between me and Israel's seed forever. Olam. For in 6 days Jehovah made the heavens and the earth. On the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. And when he had made an end to speaking with him on Mount Sinai, this is the end of the 40 days right here. He gave Moses 2 tablets of the testimony. Tablets of stone written with the finger of Elohim. Elohim's finger is what it says, written with Elohim's finger. The testimony. What is the testimony? I thought, where does it say in Torah that the 10 Commandments were on those tablets of stone? I guess right here. Moses' 2 tablets of the testimony. I thought about it this morning. What does testimony mean? It's the things that he said. Here, a solemn declaration or affirmation made. This is Webster's 1828 dictionary. A solemn declaration or affirmation made with the purpose of establishing and proving some fact. Such affirmation in judicial proceedings may be verbal or written. For Jehovah, it was both verbal and written, but must be under oath. Jehovah swears by his own name. Testimony differs from evidence. Testimony is a declaration of a witness. Evidence is the effect of the declaration on the mind, or the degree of light which it affords. Well, I wanted to get an idea of what testimony was, because I thought about this, and here is, it says on both sides. The tablet was written on both sides. On one side and on the other, they were written. It makes me think, what does Jehovah's penmanship look like? Wouldn't you like to see what Jehovah's penmanship looked like? We brought back tablets for him the second time, and he still wrote them for us. So it's still there. I don't know if we're ever going to get a chance to peek inside the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Testimony, which is why it's called the Ark of the Testimony, because it's got the tablets in it. Well, so much that I'd like to see. Before we leave, we get to go back to Yasher. Not for much, but for a little bit. Here it is. We'll get to read a little bit more next week. When we last were in Yasher, probably a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago, maybe more. I don't even know anymore. We saw Moses came into the midst of the cloud and ascended the mountain. Remember, he was with the elders of Israel and Aaron and his sons. And they watched him walk up into the mountain. Now, this is where we left off. We had to read 20 through 31, 11 chapters. Yeah, almost 3 months. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. He ate no bread and drank no water. You do that. And Jehovah instructed him in the statutes and judgments in order to teach Israel's seed. Didn't teach Egypt how to do it. He taught Israel's seed how to do it. I had a place where I wanted to tie this together with the Ezra men, but I don't. I think I missed it. Where would it have been? And Jehovah wrote the 10 Commandments, which he had commanded Israel's seed. You hear that? He wrote the 10 Commandments, which he had commanded, wrote, codified what he had spoken upon 2 tablets of stone. So there, for sure, we know that the 10 Commandments were written on those stone tablets, which he gave to Moses and commanded Israel's seed, to command Israel's seed. You know what? Before we leave, that was, maybe I got one more here. At the end of 40 days and 40 nights, when Jehovah had finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, then Jehovah gave to Moses the tablets of stone written with Elohim's finger. Let's say it the way we know it was actually written. Okay, I really wanted to go back. Let me just look, see if I can find it. I know it's in one of my notes someplace, but where is the question? It's so easy to miss a note. I'm looking for Ezra, the born in the land. The Ger, the I got an idea where I could look. See if I can find it in any one of these. I thought it was down towards one of the bottom of one of my notes here. It wouldn't be these. Let me go to Exodus 12:48, I guess. Yeah, we'll use that. Exodus 12:48. Who's he writing this to? Speak to all Israel's congregation. He's writing it to Israel. Look what he says. Here. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger, he's talking about keeping the Passover. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger, again, hey, enough. Be quiet. And when a ger dwells with you, to keep the Passover to Jehovah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. Look what it says. And he shall be as a native of the land, is what they said. Here's what it actually says. He shall be as the land's Ezra. The land's Ezra. What did Jehovah tell Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Wasn't it all about the land? Hey, enough. Lay down. Be quiet. Wasn't it about the land and the seed? This is what we're talking about. The lands, Ezra. They call him the native born of the land. The native of the land. No uncircumcised person shall eat it. Now look what it says. One law shall be for the native born, the Ezra Haaretz. The native born is who we're talking about, of the land, the native born, the Ezra of the land. And for the Ger, who dwells with you. Thus all Israel did. Israel is the Ezra of the land. The land's Ezra. If you're not Israel, keeping the Sabbath isn't going to do squat. Keeping any of his commandments isn't going to do anything because you're not his. He only told Israel's seed, you'll have to go back to my teaching on Exodus 19 to see who it was that went up into the mountain. Wasn't any Ger, wasn't any ladies. In fact, he said, don't go near a woman for 3 days. You got to be clean if you're going to come up to the mountain. Well, these are all things that we've got to understand if we're going to get the big picture. I'm trying to help you. Please, please review. You're not going to find the truth in one verse. You know, there's lots of places where it talks about Israel's seed being the Ezra. Places you can look at who dwells in the tabernacle. There's one place in the end, the last couple verses of Leviticus 23. Leviticus 17 talks about the things that we eat. You'll see it in there if you look carefully. The Ezra and Israel's seed are one and the same. Jehovah purposely uses both so that we can see it. Well, there's other places I don't have off the top of my mind right now. So let's stop. Next week, Moses is going to come down, and they have created a false image and called it the one who delivered them from Egypt. Ooh, sounds like something we do these days. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time. Thank you for being here. Bye.